The Lunchroom on RCI. Food for thought. The station that gives you, more lunch.
Good afternoon and welcome to the Lunchroom on Radio Caribbean International. It is Tuesday, the 12th of August, 2025, and this is program number 1425 of the Lunchroom. I'm your host, Calix George Jr. Now, of course, in addition to radio 101.1 FM, you can also get us at our website, rcisaintlucia.com, and we are also streaming live on our Facebook feed. You just have to search for the official page of Radio Caribbean International. If you want to call in to tell us what's on your plate today, the number to do so is 452-3046. Again, 452-3046. And also, you can reach us on our WhatsApp number. That is 724-0008. Again, 724-0008. Now, of course, today we're going to look at some history for today. Quite a lot related to some technological inventions. And of course, we start back in the year 1851 when American inventor Isaac Singer patented his famous sewing machine. In the year 1908, on this day, August the 12th, a Ford Motor Company built its first Model T car, which Henry Ford himself tested, and he used that on a hunting trip to Wisconsin and northern Michigan. In the year 1981, Don Estridge unveiled the company's first personal computer, the IBM PC, at New York's Waldorf Astoria Hotel. And it was priced at $1,565, and it had 16 kilobytes of RAM, not megabytes, not gigabytes, 16 kilobytes of RAM, helping bring computing to the masses. That was in the year 1981. We now head across to our dish of the day.
Tiles for your home, I see. Bathroom, kitchen, pantry. Need tiles for your balcony. Come down to Tiles Plus, satisfaction guarantee. Tiles Plus, Tiles Plus, Tiles Plus. Big tiles with unbeatable cost. Customer service, A+. There's all kind of tiles. Come down to Tiles Plus. We also glass, glassware, and vanity. Books, doors, you'll see. Come down to mind nobody. We got the best tiles on island. Trust me. We are located Land Street in Castries, Bosses Rue Grosile, and Slack Street in Beaufort. Telephone number 453-7939. Tiles Plus.
Serving now, the Daily Dish.
And welcome back to our program for today. And we do hope that you're having a very blessed day indeed. And I just want to carry on the matter of technology and certainly how it can change the world, how it has changed the world. How it is changing lives, how it has certainly been a major driver in terms of the success of empires and countries and people, and of course how we as human beings have over many generations have been able to utilize our brain power to drive technological advances. And of course, with each advancement, building upon the next. And of course, in some instances, there have been moments where the advancements have disappeared and have come to naught, sometimes due to the loss of that knowledge, due to the loss of civilizations, and there are times in the past where we've seen that just happen. And sometimes there may be, there may have been certain groups out there who went out and independently invented certain things, and unfortunately we don't even know about them because it was lost. It was not able to be passed down from one generation to the next. It was not able to be used to the overall benefit of propagating the growth of the society. Sometimes we have seen how technologies can, in fact, be potentially misused, or which leads to destruction. So certainly, we have to have a technological mindset, a scientific mindset. It's really, really important that we embrace that aspect in terms of where we see ourselves going as a people, as a region, and of course how we can contribute to the greater good of the world. And like I said, we've seen really the growth of countries because of some technological advantage that they have been able to utilize to their favor. And you can go way, way back into time, and you'll see that even from the earliest of human beings, even when we fathom our ancestors who came out of the Great Rift Valley and the regions of East Africa and onto the plains, and they were able very, very early on to utilize technologies. And sometimes we think of individuals like which we call hunter-gatherers, and we think these are very, very quote-unquote primitive human beings at that point in terms of what they knew and what they were able to do. But they were able to have, with very little, make advances in terms of tools, in terms of sharing of information, in terms of communication, because that's a technology. Certainly, being able to communicate over long distances is a technology. I mean, we speak about telecommunications today, and we, of course, marvel at the fact that we could be anywhere in the world, and we could be video chatting, we could be sharing large volumes of information, and it's possible today. But even the ability to communicate over maybe a 2-mile distance away to another population, it's a big deal. It was a big deal back then, and we found ways of being able to manipulate nature, fire, being able to utilize what was available, material science, being able to get materials out of the ground, mining and creating of metals, metallurgy, a lot of things that we certainly take for granted, that today it's almost, something of the past, but it still is underpinning our world today. The wheel, which is an ancient invention, is still underpinning our world today. The ability to control heat and create fires is still underpinning our world today. We take a lot of it for granted, yes, but it's still very, very, very important. And so the development of tools, precision tools, is still very much present in the world today, and we are continuing to build upon what our ancestors have been doing for hundreds of thousands of years, and getting better and better at it. And so the importance of advancement is crucial in every aspect of our pursuits of development. And so, of course, even today, we need to be thinking about how we can become more productive. How do we have the right tools to be able to be more productive in what we're trying to achieve? Now, quite often, we can also get ourselves into situations where the technology is moving so fast that it's really, really difficult to keep up. And we can think, back in time to the idea of a photograph or camera, being able to capture images, and how critical this has become, that technology has become, to understanding everything about ourselves, because we're using photography in a multiplicity of different ways. And so that idea of, hey, first let's be able to paint something, let's be able to say, hey, can we see something out there and actually capture it on a rock in a cave somewhere out there, and that's how our early ancestors did it, to pass on information. And it's and then of course it moved on to the embellishment of homes through art and whatnot. But now we've been able to take that idea of creating a picture, and it has become so important towards pretty much everything that we do, not just in terms of pure entertainment and whatnot, but the technologies that are driving satellite imagery and driving drones and driving CCTV, the idea of greater and better surveillance for our own use, and down to things like taking images of distant planets, and we were taking images of our bodies, the inside of our bodies, and utilizing different spectra to be able to do that. And that's a very important idea, that we can take a picture of something, and how it has certainly changed the way we exist right about now, the way we communicate. So, and of course, those technologies have changed and are continuously changing. How that is actually affected is changing. The idea is quite often very similar. The motives, the ambitions tend to be very similar, but it is becoming more and more and more and more refined and more specialized in how that is able to be achieved. So whereas maybe 5 decades ago, we would have had to have depended on one person with a camera in a community and going out and going into a dark room and actually preparing these photographs. We've seen how that has completely changed, and how, of course, companies have been left behind as the technologies evolve. Very famously, Kodak, which was a leader in the production of film, production of cameras, and what have you. They are no longer really in business because they got left behind thanks to the advent of digital photography, and that has certainly changed the world. And of course, we are continuously seeing things that are coming around that may be deemed to be disruptive, but at the same time, they create interesting opportunities for ourselves at this point in the world. Now, of course, one of them has been about energy, and we spoke about that somewhat yesterday. And the whole idea of green energy is huge, and the current thrust towards a green industrial revolution is very important for countries like ours. We know, for example, that the distribution of hydrocarbons around the world is not uniform. It's not everywhere, and of course it comes in sometimes very difficult circumstances to be able to be somehow utilized. And so they've been winners. They've been major winners, these petro countries, who have been able to, for the past century or so, maximize what is found within their territory, whether terrestrial or under the sea, to be able to take that out and to drive the industrialization that we're seeing right now, because we all need energy. The Industrial Revolution is based on having energy to be able to use for use in machines and what have you. And so that's one aspect of it, of course, that these countries have been able to do so. But a lot of countries have not had that benefit. But we in the tropics, and certainly we here in the Caribbean, may have other types of resources. And one of them, of course, which has become very, very important, is that of solar photovoltaics, or solar energy and in a whole. Sometimes solar thermal, as well as solar electric. And that is a very important aspect for countries like ours, because we find ourselves in parts of the world that have a good bit of sunlight, a fair bit of sunlight, not necessarily the most in the world, because you would have desert regions like the Sahara, for example, are seen to be massive opportunities in terms of solar. But certainly we do have some advantages in terms of the amount of irradiation that exists in these islands. And this is what we have. We have that available. We have wind, these trade winds available, and not a bad resource at all as well. And of course, other potential sources of energy, which may very well be possible. The idea of the oceans being able to provide energy, reliable energy, is a major area of intensive research and development by a number of countries looking to see how best they can actually utilize the power of the ocean. Of course, the world being 71%, the surface of the world being covered 71% by water, and it as an island state, certainly it's something that we've got to be thinking about. And there's so many different potential methods that are being looked at. You've seen tidal technology in some places where you've got massive differences in high and low tide. They've been trying to use tidal energy as one potential source. Some are using the idea of waves. Some are using the idea of differences in temperature between the various sections within the water at high, well, closer to the surface and lower than down, and those differences, being able to utilize that. So a lot of different applications. Even pressure, the idea of pressurizing water and then releasing it as a form of storage is something that is being looked at currently. And so we certainly have to be thinking about many of these things, because although we may not necessarily be the inventors, we certainly may be able to show how these technologies can find meaningful applications within our context. And so, of course, the importance of finding the right fit is very, very important for ourselves. And so, really and truly, all countries have to have a science and technology agenda. It sometimes sounds very lofty to imagine that small regions like ours or small countries like ours could ever be able to satisfactorily afford that type of investment. But maybe we may not be able to be engaging too much in the pure science, but certainly we do need to be thinking about how we can apply technology, how we can find opportunities where we in fact do need sometimes a quantum leap in terms of improvement of what we have existing. And it is exciting in that regard, because if countries can find that route in terms of making those leaps, making those jumps, we can potentially certainly benefit our population to the greater good. It's very heartened to hear, for example, last week when we were interviewing the gentleman from the youth economy and one of the beneficiaries, and the point being made is that a lot of the resources, a lot of the grants that are being offered by the Youth Economy Agency, a lot of it is geared towards equipment. A lot of it is geared towards technological improvements. And that investment is really important in terms of ensuring that we can, in fact, do better with what we have. And so it certainly is a matter that across agencies, across government, across private sector, that we certainly perhaps do need to have a science and technology policy and a framework as to how we as a country are looking at the matter of science and technology and driving it forward in various sectors. Because in all aspects of development, it is important. And what is also important, especially at the level of education, I think it is no mistake, for example, in the case of Japan, they have a Ministry of Education, Science and Culture. That's how their ministry is set up, similar to, I guess, UNESCO, where you have that agency which has responsibility for education, science and culture. They see that education has to be that bedrock for scientific and cultural advancement. And it is certainly very important at the level of our education institutions that we are promoting science education. And of course, we've been hearing a lot about it. I mean, we've got all these buzz terms like STEM and STEAM, but the need to be able to have those being introduced at an earlier age and more broadly is very important. What's also very important, of course, is ensuring that it is exciting for the individuals who are being exposed to science. And we don't, there are a lot of things that I think some countries in the region have done. Like, for example, I think Trinidad had an institution called NIHURST, I think the National Institute for related to science and technology, teaching of that. And it certainly is important that the public awareness of science education and science and technology is something that has to be looked at. We're seeing, of course, how people are interacting with technology, and the implications that are coming forward are sometimes good and bad, right? And of course, we're seeing it in terms of ICT, information communications technologies, where individuals are getting a very powerful device in their hands, a smartphone, very, very high penetration rates. Nearly every other person out there has one. It's ubiquitous. And unfortunately, though, how much of it is actually being utilized beyond the realm of entertainment is unclear. And the other risk, of course, is that because people are also now utilizing these technologies so much in terms of, and there's so much information out there, the whole matter of digital literacy is certainly becoming very, very important, because there are good elements and bad elements trying to utilize these universal platforms to be able to influence people, to get them to do lots of things, good and bad. And so it is certainly important that we are equipping the society with a desire, number one, to appreciate the scientific method, to appreciate technology, to be positive about the introduction of technologies, and because that sometimes is a challenge. People have sometimes a very negative mindset about change, about something new that is coming, and how am I going to adapt? I've been doing this for all my life, and you're now asking me to do it in some different way, or so sometimes it is certainly a major ask, especially for older generations. And so we certainly have to have that general development of mindset, and of course the idea that we can pass on skills to better utilize these technologies that are being made available is also very, very important. Now, I think we're almost ahead, and we're almost at time for our weather report, so I think we will have to take it in at this time. That's our dish of the day, and of course, when we come back, we'll take in our weather report.
One tiles for your home, I see. Bathroom, kitchen, pantry. Need tiles for your balcony. Come down to Tiles Plus, satisfaction guarantee. Tiles Plus, Tiles Plus, Tiles Plus. Big tiles with unbeatable cost. Customer service, A+. Did all kind of tiles. Come down to Tiles Plus. We also got glassware and vanity. Box, doors, you'll see. Come down, don't mind nobody. We got the best tiles on island. Trust me. We are located Land Street in Castries, Bosses Juguzile, and Slack Street in Beaufort. Telephone number 453-7939.
This has been The Daily Dish.
Girl, I've been so stressed searching for the perfect tiles to complete my home.
Really?
Yeah, it's always the same white, beige, and gray tiles with these tile stores. Like they're all buying from the same place. You're the design expert. Help me, please. I'm fed up.
What are you looking for?
Something different. Something that says Caribbean beauty and suits my personality. Something vibrant and classy with a little razzle dazzle.
Okay, Ms. Razzle Dazzle, I know just the place. Island Style Tile and Bath, they're my #1 store for everything tile. And with their new In Living Color collection, you'll find the most gorgeous tiles to give you that splash of Caribbean flair you're looking for.
That sounds perfect.
I'll even take you myself and throw in a free design consultation.
I'll never say no to that, sis. I can't afford you anyway.
Visit our Island Style showrooms in Castries, Rodney Bay, and Vieux-Fort, or call 450-452 or 453 Tile. We'll help bring your vision to life in living color.
This is Radio Caribbean International. It's now time for the weather news.
The forecast for St. Lucia Valley for the next 24 hours. Winds will be blowing from between east and east-northeast near 18 miles per hour or 30 kilometers per hour. Weather fair and hazy, becoming cloudy at times with a few brief showers. Persons with respiratory ailments and dust allergies are advised to take caution and the necessary precautions due to the reduction of air quality. Forecast for the Lesser Antilles. Fair and hazy, becoming cloudy at times with a few light showers. The tropical weather outlook. Light to moderate easterly winds from the tropical Atlantic high pressure system will be bringing a few showers over the eastern Caribbean over the next couple of days. Visibility and air quality in the region will be reduced over the next few days due to Sahara dust haze. At 11 a.m. today, tropical storm Ian. Oh, sorry about that. Tropical storm Ian was located latitude 7.2 north, longitude 36.3 south. Over the far eastern tropical Atlantic, or about 1,636 miles east-northeast from St. Lucia. Ian has a max sustained winds of 45 miles per hour, moving east 23 miles per hour. On Ian's current track, residents of the North Leeward Islands should monitor the progress of this system as it could become a hurricane later on this week. And that was your weather news.
This has grasping RCI's weather news. For more information, call the weather hotline at 454-3452. RCI 101 number 1.
Girl, I've been so stressed searching for the perfect tiles to complete my home.
Really?
Yeah, it's always the same white, beige, and gray tiles with the style stores. Like they're all buying from the same place. You're the design expert. Help me, please. I'm fed up.
What are you looking for?
Something different. Something that says Caribbean beauty and suits my personality. Something vibrant and classy with a little razzle dazzle.
Okay, Ms. Razzle Dazzle, I know just the place. Island Style Tile and Bath, they're my number one store for everything tile. And with their new In Living Color collection, you'll find the most gorgeous styles to give you that splash of Caribbean flair you're looking for.
That sounds perfect.
I'll even take you myself and throw in a free design consultation.
I'll never say no to that, sis. I can't afford you anyway.
Visit our Island Style showrooms in Castries, Rodney Bay, and View Fort, or call 450-452 or 453 Tile. We'll help bring your vision to life in living color.
Welcome back to the lunchroom here at Radio Caribbean International. Of course, we've got about 24 hours to go before the hour of 2 o'clock. And the number to call in if you'd like to make a contribution, tell us what's on your plate today. It is 452-3046. Again, 452-3046. And you can also reach us at our website, at our WhatsApp. My apologies there. That is 724-0008. Let's go to the phone lines at this time. Good afternoon. Welcome to the lunchroom. And what's on your plate today?
Yes, good afternoon. Reference to your discussion about technology, I was curious as to how, when we send our nationals overseas to study, to get qualified in the area of science, technology, and engineering, what do we put in place to ensure that they actually have an incentive to return to St. Lucia to actually practice their skills rather than just taking up administrative jobs in the civil service? Because some of them will actually tell you after they get qualified, there's nothing in St. Lucia for them. Mm-hmm. Because, they can use their skills, in a more developed country, probably where they studied.
It is a major challenge, definitely, because the reality is that in many other places, they are already geared towards utilizing those skills far more than we are. And so definitely the opportunities as well as the compensation, the remuneration, benefits that are afforded to those individuals in positions in those countries certainly are far better than what you'd ever be able to perhaps achieve locally. It's not necessarily a totally bad thing if there is some means by which we can utilize those potential gains on the outside locally. And so I think it really has to do with maybe some of the values that we are inculcating within those individuals before they leave, that they have a great appreciation for their country, that they wish to actually give back, that it's part of their agenda, that they see, hey, okay, I might be going out, I might be spending maybe my entire life potentially outside, but I'm still connected to what happens on island, I think is important. So it's a really interesting point that you're making, and it's part of the brain drain challenge that we have, because the reality is a lot of our best trained individuals are likely to in fact not return, and so I think it is definitely a bit of a challenge. I guess maybe in the earlier generations, maybe, after the World War II period, and a lot of people got scholarships, a lot of them did come back. And I'm not sure if it was really that they had no choice. There were various challenges in terms of necessarily migrating, but a lot of did go out as well. So it's never going to be, in a way, we are going to be training people to almost potentially leave, but we also want to hope that we can create the kind of environments locally as well so that they can in fact potentially create businesses back home. Yeah, but I mean, look at India. That's a good example of that. They have, I mean, huge numbers of graduates, in Europe and the US and outside of India, and many of them are leaders in tech. They're doing very, very well, and there is this shift now for some of them to actually go back to India. So it sometimes takes a while. It's not gonna be automatic, and sometimes you lose first before you gain. So it is something that you've got to kind of consider within its overall.
Yeah, in terms of industrialization of our economy, I mean, it won't happen overnight. It will never be like Trinidad, for example. But I think we can look at some level of automation, using digital technology, to see if we can, create jobs in that sector, and then perhaps, attract, the right people and local people, and then see if we can create another pillar for our economy, not just be service-based totally. It might take a long time, but
yeah,
I think it's something to look forward to.
Yeah, definitely. Thanks for that contribution, caller. And a very important point that is being made. And from that perspective, I think certainly the investments in education are vital in that regard. And we've seen some countries being able to leverage that in the current era. Estonia, for example, small European country, but they've become very well known in terms of tech and what they've been able to achieve. We've got a call. Oh, yes. Okay, let's go to the phone lines. Good afternoon and welcome to the lunchroom. What's on your plate today?
Good afternoon, Mr. George. How are you?
Very good, thank you. How are you doing?
All right. That was an excellent input there, and your response was likewise excellent.
Thank you.
Yeah. Yeah, but take for example, and yeah, that's how it has to be, because that, the new technologies could make that possible. Where you don't have to be on island to contribute towards the development of the island.
Right.
And because in India now, a lot of them actually migrated to America. All right, and like you said, they become chiefs in the industry or the technological industry. But before, they didn't used to really. In fact, a lot of the technology used by America was just being sourced from India itself.
Yes.
So they never really left India. A lot of them,
Yes.
But they were able to, even in an environment that's not so technologically developed like India, they were able to still leverage and, get advantage from that and staying at home. So yeah, it's a very, 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 very because we've been dealing with this issue of educating our people to what is the name for brain drain.
Right.
Yeah, brain drain. And a wonderful example of that, what you say in the being trained to a certain level that you really cannot keep to cutting edge if you remain on St. Lucia, would be our very Nobel Prize winners. Not necessarily technology.
Yeah.
Or industry, but it's the same theory. Yeah, they really couldn't develop and grow in the local environment. All right. Yeah. So
and coming back to that, as you did mention the Nobel laureates, I just wanted to make mention of Arthur Lewis in particular, and a lot of what his theories were premised on is that countries like ours, would have to be bringing in know-how, right? So we didn't have two things mostly, right? We didn't have the capital to invest and the know-how, the expertise, skills, that sort of thing to implement industrialization. But we, I think, have actually seen a significant amount of investment in know-how through education over the years. But we haven't, I think, perhaps sufficiently utilize the know-how in certain sectors where we should by now already have an advantage. So, like for example, in tourism, right? We're still somewhat pursuing a model of tourism that is dependent on FDI, foreign direct investment coming in, and we have not yet made that sort of transition towards more of a locally owned tourism plant, right? Where we in fact have the know-how, and when we put in systems like citizenship by investment, that's the capital, right? So we should be in a position now to begin seeing a lot more ownership of hotels and accommodation by the local population. So it's one of the areas where I think we do need to make some shifts, in terms of policy.
But again, Calix, when you check it, it's to actually reach a certain level of training, and where you could realize it's easy to decide, well, boy, your home country cannot really satisfy your desire to grow, and blossom into something, greater or whatever.
Mm-hmm. Right. It
took a lot of patriotism, in the past, because there have been people who have actually decided, well, no, that's home. We're going home.
Yes.
And these countries were in the sort of situations, either responding from certain situations, they're having to respond to certain situations that befall them.
Mm-hmm.
Like, for example, the 1948 fire.
Right.
So you had people like, Tedbert Tibbles.
Right.
You know that name?
Yes.
Yeah. This gentleman could have made it in the metropolis.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Yeah, because he was a very brilliant engineer.
Mm-hmm.
But he chose to come and, rebuild Castries. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Yeah, because in fact it presented him with an opportunity to actually to expand.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So you had people like Charles Cadet who, in the banana industry, you know what I mean?
Right.
These people could have flourished in their fields other places, and they still came.
Right.
And you had those that never really came to live and think, because obviously is maybe a different kind of level of technology they were into in terms of the research.
Right.
Research, I would say.
Yes.
Yeah, research is very important.
Yes.
And you have somebody like Paris.
Right.
Vincent Paris.
Yeah. Or Leslie Lewis, for example. Brother
Vincent
too.
Paris stayed overseas, but he never really turned his back on St. Lucia.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely. He always looked for ways where he would return and try and, help those that are still there, who remain in the field, to grow.
Right.
So it's a very interesting discussion, and I'm grateful that the gentleman is a gentleman that is very quiet and unassuming. Mr. Gittins from Price Control, I think.
He's at the St. Lucia Bureau of Standards now.
Bureau of Standards.
Yes.
And he's always, I've known him in my working years, and he's always been this thought-evoking kind of person,
Yes, indeed.
Anyway.
Yes, thanks very much for that contribution, caller.
All right.
Have a good one. And, of course, we've got about 11 minutes to go before the hour of 2 o'clock, and we've been speaking about the importance of science and technology for development and for growth, and of course, not just economic development, but also the overall development of society. It's also very important from that perspective as well, that in terms of enlightenment, in terms of thought, in terms of how we even solve our problems. That is, of course, very important within that context. One matter, of course, we should mention that's been very topical, for example, I just want to touch on it a little bit, although not directly related to this this subject, is that of crime and crime fighting and crime solving. And of course, the whole matter of justice is actually impinged upon the need to bring persons before the courts for trial, and that those individuals, based on the burden of evidence, can in fact be deemed either guilty or not guilty. And the matter of evidence is, of course, very important. And quite recently, we heard from the island's Commissioner of Police, Mr. Vern God, just before he went on some vacation leave. He gave a press conference where he mentioned the issue of evidence going lost in cases, in murder, homicide cases, I believe, in 2 instances. And that, of course, is very, very, very unfortunate. Of course, it's very questionable. And I think under the criminal code, certainly there are rules about that in terms of tampering of evidence or evidence, somehow, being destroyed or whatnot. So, of course, certainly it is a criminal matter, which the police need to pursue as, of course, within their means as best they can. Of course, the challenge, however, is unfortunate because the police require the kind of infrastructure to be able to safely support the proper management of evidence. And I say management because it's not even just about storage. Sometimes these things have to be properly tagged. They have to be kept in certain environments. They have to be kept under certain environmental conditions, depending on the type of evidence you're talking about. It has to be properly recorded, whether through proper registry system or databases. And so there has to be a whole evidence management system in place. And again, this is within the context and importance of technology. And one of the areas we certainly do need to see modernization is within that of the Royal St. Lucia in our policing on island. Now, without even having a proper headquarters, you can well begin to appreciate the challenges that the police are going through with respect to the keeping of evidence in matters. Number one, we can see, for example, how long evidence has to be kept sometimes. We're talking about years in cold case situations. It could be decades. And it therefore means you really are, it's almost like an archiving process that has to be undertaken. You've got to have a proper curator, if you like, to be able to manage such evidence. And that is part of the challenge that you have within the Royal St. Lucia Police Force. Because I mean, not to say that everybody should know where the vaults and the evidence rooms are and whatnot, but the police certainly are and have been challenged with respect to having decent accommodation to be able to handle these things. And it is part of the challenge that the police are going through. And of course, even when you have that infrastructure, the need for surveillance is becoming equally important, and accountability. So the need to have proper surveillance, even on police, in police buildings and police facilities, and during police work, is also very important. That's the whole concept of why we're seeing so much being made now of having these body cams, so that police can actually have the ability to properly note the interactions or their interactions with criminals, and sometimes very dangerous situations where they very well may have to use force and whatnot. So from an accountability perspective, it is very, very important. And so the need for having a proper facilities and infrastructure for the whole system of justice is very important. And of course, we have seen, unfortunately, how acutely inadequate these have been over the years. And really and truly, it's a situation of playing catch up. And we do hope that we can see, for example, there's, of course, the work ongoing on the halls of justice, which, of course, is at the level of the courts and ensuring that they, in fact, have what it takes there. And the courts, in fact, do also have to have their own evidence storage and vaults and appropriately designed for that purpose. But in addition to that, the police themselves also have to have the appropriate infrastructure to be able to support just that. Just on another note regarding the matter of some elections, and Jamaica is heading to the polls. And in fact, the Prime Minister has announced that elections are going to be called for the 3rd of September. And of course, Prime Minister Andrew Holness's Jamaica Labour Party, they are the ones in the driver's seat right now with 49 of the 63 seats in the Jamaica House of Representatives. Of course, the majority there is 32. And so Mr. Mark Golding and the People's National Movement, National Party, they, of course, have been in opposition for a little while now, since 2020? Well, he's been around since 2020, but they've been in opposition for longer than that. And they, of course, are wanting to find an opportunity to get back into power, and they would require 18 seats. They currently have 14 seats right about now, and so certainly it should be very interesting in the coming weeks ahead over in Jamaica as we look towards what is a poll that is going to be pretty interesting to see how it is going to pan out. According to a Blue Dot pollster of May 2025, at that time the JLP had a 4-point lead, but according to the most recent poll that I'm seeing available, online, which was prepared by Don Anderson somewhere around June, it actually showed the JLP with a lead in the polls with a 32.6%. It may be that there has been a shift in the polls and has given some confidence to Mr. Holness to call the election. And of course, we will have to wait and see what comes of that poll over in Jamaica. Now, of course, over in Trinidad and Tobago, they have quite recently gone through a poll themselves, and that led to the bringing forward of the party of the UNC, United National Congress, led by Kamala Harris. Sorry, my apologies. Kamala Persad Bissessa. Kamala Persad Bissessa is now the Prime Minister for the second time over in Trinidad and Tobago. And she seems to already be having a little bit of a difficult time with some of her own with her own MPs, according to what seemed to be a very interesting statement that she made at a recent political meeting in Cuba. I think on the anniversary, was it 100 days anniversary? And we've got that little piece available. So let's take a listen as she is providing a scolding of sorts to some of her own MPs.
We will not allow that dependency syndrome to continue. I said it is time to move on from them. You cannot live always with these starvation wages and so on. What are you going to do when you can't work anymore? What will happen? Because these make-work programs are a poverty trap, while a small group runs away with the billions. I will stand with the people who stood by me, and I will support them. The UNC has transformed into the most diverse, multi-ethnic party ever in the history of Trinidad and Tobago.
We were just going to try to cue up the right section, the right piece coming out of CNC News from Trinidad, where Kamala Persad-Bissessar, Prime Minister of Trinidad, giving a warning to her very own members of Parliament.
I say, this is a warning, a 100-day warning. Straighten up, fix yourself, behave yourself.
To say Kamala Persad-Bissessar issued a stern warning or a firm reprimand to her MPs and ministers may be a serious understatement here.
I warn you, and I am not afraid. I will fire you, and I will ensure you face the courts.
So who exactly had the Prime Minister so fired up on a night the UNC dedicated to showcase accomplishments and spotlight successes on their first 100 days in office? Well, their leader told them and the crowd in Couva on Monday night that she's received some upsetting information about the conduct of some in her ranks.
I'm warning some persons. You know who you are. You're already cavorting with the same crooked contractors and lawyers and P&M financiers and corrupt fake elite. Get yourselves out of that now.
And while she didn't single anyone out, the Prime Minister said she learned that some are already getting carried away.
Lyman and Hyatt, Lyman some restaurant up in town, people who would never sit at the same table with you. You are now seen in Port of Spain, sitting at those tables. Learn your lessons. They will carry you, but they will not bring you back.
In her strongest statement of the night, the Prime Minister warned them that she and the people worked too hard to give the UNC another chance and warned that failure to comply will result in dire consequences.
She likes to say he will go to war with you. But if you continue that kind of behavior, patterning from the PNM, I am not going to war with you. I'll bust your head. Should you do it? I'll bust your head.
The Prime Minister said she learned valuable lessons during her first term and will no longer tolerate the kinds of conduct she once allowed.
And don't ever believe this Kamala 2.0 is not the same Kamala 1 from 2010, 2015. It's not the same.
The big question now, who was the Prime Minister talking about? Akash Samaru, CNC3 News.
Well, some very interesting words there. I'm not mincing any words at all. Kamala Persad-Bissessar, Prime Minister of Trinidad and Tobago, at her recent event, 100 Days event, which happened in central Trinidad. She currently has 26 of the 41 seats in that island's parliament, in that House of Representatives. Pretty healthy majority, and I suppose she is willing to defend it very closely, and she's also very not afraid of potentially firing ministers who she believes are going out of line, and already indicating that she is concerned with who certain individuals within her cabinet, certain MPs are already dealing with and potentially looking to make deals with and all of that. So very, very strong language indeed. Let's see how that all pans out. That's our program for today on the Lunchroom. We'll be back again tomorrow. It will also be Republic Corner on the Lunchroom at Radio Caribbean International. Of course, we'd wish you a very blessed day. Take care.
spinning all the hits. All the hits. All day long. RCI 101, number one.
I don't walk that many kilometers. Learn from the teacher. I don't take for the game, she no pitas. I decide bad mind from a distance. But this sweet happy yellow my pitas. Oh, Doguni Misha, show you the confirm for your speaker. This time I call trap street for assistance. Show we they blow your mind, Afghanistan. Kilometers. I don't come.